Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Are you struggling to beat the Valkyrie Queen? Well, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to share 5 helpful tips so that you can defeat Sigru, the Valkyrie Queen. Alright, so let's get right into it, guys. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to level up your gear. And there's 3 different things you're going to want to level up. Number 1, your weapons. Number 2, your armor. And number 3, your skills. So let's talk about weapons first. So as far as weapons go, you have 2 main weapons. You have your Leviathan Axe, and you have the Blades of Chaos. Now you'll notice that my axe is about 1 level higher than my Blades of Chaos, and that's because you get the Blades of Chaos kind of halfway through the game, or maybe a little before halfway through the game, so you have a little more time with your axe than you do with the Blades of Chaos. Now, how do you level them up? Well, you need Frozen Flames for your axe, and you need Chaos Flames for your Blades of Chaos. And just the normal progression through the game, you'll find these, so you'll be able to level them up. For me, when I fought the Valkyrie Queen, my axe was at a level 6, my Blades of Chaos were at a level 5. Obviously, you want to have good runic attacks. For me, I'm using the Wrath of the Frost Ancient for the light runic attack. For the heavy runic attack, Frost Giant's Frenzy. These, I would say, play with whatever you think is the best. These were 2 that I found were pretty useful. And then your pommel, same thing. You want to use a good pommel that has some good stats, and you want to level it up. Obviously, you can tell that I've leveled it all the way up. Let's talk about the Blades of Chaos. Same thing. I leveled it up to level 5. As far as a light runic attack, I'm using the Spartan Charge. The heavy runic attack, I'm using the Fires of Airs. And then for the pommel, I'm just using the Blight Guard. And again, it's leveled all the way up to a level 8. As far as the shield, you can't really do much with that, and you don't really have to worry too much about Atreus' stuff. He doesn't really do much in the fight against the Valkyries. His attacks are not very useful, and you don't really have to worry about him getting injured or hurt or anything like that, so not a huge deal. Let's talk about armor. You're going to want to have a good set of armor for all 3 of these: your chest, your wrist, and your waist. Now, for me, because I was doing a lot of grinding in Niflheim, I just went with these Evaldi's Pauldron of Deadly Mist. This was what I thought was a pretty good set of armor, and I've got the matching set. So I've got the Pauldron of Deadly Mist, the Gauntlets of Deadly Mist, and then the War Belt of Deadly Mist. And the reason I use these was because it gives you a little bit of constant health regen, and it also helps with the Cursed Mist that you find in Niflheim. So it allows you to stay there longer than without it. So again, just from the normal progression through the game, eventually you'll find yourself in Niflheim, and part of the main story, you have to find the necessary items to craft this. Sindri will be there. He'll craft it for you, and you just want to make sure that you level it all the way up. Okay, so all these, you'll notice that for me, I had them at level 8. And as far as the sockets, we can take a look at the sockets just so you can see what I'm using. These were just some, epic sockets that increased your stats. Nothing special there. Heart of the Valkyrie. So I use this just because, I was fighting the Valkyrie Queen, so it made sense to use this. But again, these don't have to be exactly how I have them here. You can use what you think is best. For the wrist armor, I was using the Stone of Fire Supremacy because it increases burn damage by 25%. The Buri's Frozen Shard. This one was actually pretty useful because this increases the duration of my runic attack, the Wrath of the Frost Ancient runic attack. So, and that's a pretty powerful attack. So that's why I ended up using this one. And then the third one I was using was Eye of Runic Supremacy. Again, just it helps when you're taking damage while you're doing a runic attack. It reduces the amount of damage that you take. Let's look at the waist armor. This was just another one where nearby enemies within 15 feet are weakened. Heart of Vanaheim, a moderate perk, chance to grant a short boost to runic strength or defense on any successful hit. And then the last one, Stone of Frost Supremacy. This increases all frost damage inflicted by 25%. So again, they don't have to be exactly what I'm using. You're going to end up with tons and tons and tons of these enchantment stones. So play around, whatever you think is best. These aren't that critical, but just make sure that your armor set is leveled up. And then as far as the talisman goes, there's a lot of talisman you can use. I ended up using this Amulet of Kvasir because, as it says here, a last second dodge activates a realm shift, temporarily slowing down surrounding enemies. This actually works really good with the Valkyrie Queen because a lot of the times you're going to be dodging her attacks. And once you fight her enough times, you're going to end up kind of learning her attacks. And this will allow you to, as soon as you dodge an attack, if you time it right, remember, it's got to be last second dodge, then you'll slow down time, and then you can go and just do some damage with your axe or with your Blades of Chaos while the time is slowed down. Again, whatever amulet or talisman you use, you want to make sure you level it up. So for me, when I found this in Alfheim, and I can show you where that was. If we go over to, where's Alfheim? I found it right over here. So here, here's the main place that you go. It was over here. You come across with your canoe, you dock over here, and then there's a bunch of chests and stuff. There's a couple puzzles here you'll need to figure it out. But at the end of it, you'll find a big chest, and you'll find that talisman called the Amulet of Kvasir. And if you want to see how to get it exactly, there's tons of videos on YouTube that shows you how to get this one. And as far as armor for Atreus, again, not that important. I ended up going with something that gives you health, because you're going to find yourself when you're fighting the queen, you're going to be pretty low on health a bunch of times. So this particular armor set that I picked out gives you health stones as you're fighting. So again, not as critical because Atreus doesn't really get injured. So, use whatever you think is best. As far as skills go, this is your skill tree. And for in order to upgrade your skills, you're going to need XP. So again, with just a normal progression of the game, you're going to build your XP, and the more XP you get, the more of these you can unlock. For me, I've got everything unlocked by the time I fought the Valkyrie Queen. I had pretty much everything. You can see that I still have almost 400,000 XP left over. Just make sure that you've got all these attacks unlocked, ready to go. Same thing with Atreus, but again, Atreus's arrows and his runic attack doesn't really do much to the Valkyrie Queen, so this one's not as critical. Just make sure your two main melee weapons are leveled up so that you've got those as strong as they can get. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the Resurrect Stone. Let's head over to the shop and I'll show you which one I used, and you'll see that in the video in a bit. Okay, as far as Resurrect Stones, I believe when you get towards the end of the game, you'll have 3 choices. You're going to want to make sure that you have at least one of the 3. The one that I used was this Berserker's Resurrection Stone. And the reason why I used this was because when you get revived by Atreus, you come back with a small amount of health, but you have full rage. So that allows you to, as soon as you're revived, you can use that rage attack, and as you're attacking the Valkyrie Queen, you're increasing your health, because when you do damage, when you're in that rage mode, you're increasing your health. So that's why it's for me, I personally thought this was the best one to use. But whichever one you use, you've got 3 choices. You want to make sure you have one going into that fight, because as you'll see, when I fought the Valkyrie Queen, I actually did go down and I needed to be resurrected towards the end of the fight. Okay, let's move into tip number 2, and this is something that I myself realized about halfway through the game. You got to make sure you're using your runic attacks. Your runic attacks are by far way stronger than anything else that you can do. So when you're in the fight, you're going to want to be constantly switching from your axe to your blades of chaos. That's kind of what I was doing as I was fighting here. I was using both my light runic attack and my heavy runic attack with my axe, and then I was switching over to the blades of chaos. And as I'm using the runic attacks for the blades of chaos, the runic attacks for the axe were on cooldown. So if you almost time it right, by the time you switch back over to your axe, you'll have those runic attacks available. So it's extremely important that you guys understand that the runic attacks are what's going to help you defeat the queen. You're going to have to use them to beat her, because if you're just trying to sit there and throw your axe, or run up to her and do some damage with your blades or with your axe, it's going to take you a lot longer. I'm sure it's possible to beat her that way, but the amount of damage you do with just those melee attacks versus a runic attack, it's a substantial difference. So again, you want to make sure you use your runic attacks while you're fighting her. Okay, now tip number 3. This is actually something I discovered kind of by accident. There is one attack that the Valkyrie Queen does where she kind of stands still and then she goes up in the air and she kind of just floats there for a second. When she does that, you can actually throw your axe at her, and it kind of stuns her and she comes back down. Because if you don't do that, she does a really powerful attack, and I don't know if there's a way to block it, meaning you're gonna take damage regardless of what you do when she does it. I think the only thing might be is if you're completely on the opposite side of the arena, then maybe you won't take damage. But I found that anytime she did that and she went up in the air, she kind of swung her wings and lobs something at you, and like there's a big explosion and you take a huge amount of damage. So when you see her stand still, go up in the air, and kind of hover there for a couple seconds, that's your opportunity to throw your axe at her and get her to come back down so that she doesn't do that really strong attack. Tip number 4 is you want to make sure that you pay attention to your health bar. And as your health bar gets to a point where it's in the red, you want to time your rage, because going into the fight, you should have full rage. So when your health gets low, you want to use your rage so that you can do a lot of damage to her. And at the same time, remember I said earlier, as you're doing damage while in that rage mode, you're gaining health. You'll see your health bar will go up the more damage that you do. So keep an eye on your health bar. When it starts getting low, make sure you use rage. That'll give you an opportunity to do a lot of damage and increase your health at the same time. And then you couple that with that Resurrect stone that gives you full health or full rage. You can repeat that the second time your health gets low, which like in my case was towards the end of the fight. My health got low. She ended up essentially defeating me. I had to use my Resurrect stone, but I came back with full rage. I immediately went into that rage mode and started doing tons of damage to her, increased my health, and I was able to finish the fight without dying. Now, the last tip, and I think this tip is important, you're going to find yourself fighting her many times, as it was in my case. And really what you want to get out of all those fights is you want to learn her attacks. She uses the same like 5 or 6 attacks throughout the fight, and they're all kind of at random. And some of the attacks you can block, some of the attacks you can kind of just dodge, and you just want to be ready for them. You want to see what she does, and you want to time things, and you want to be prepared for them. So really quickly, I'll go over some of her main attacks. She's got this spinning attack where she'll just kind of spin towards you a few times with her wings extended. And for this one, you can block it. You can just kind of stay there with your shield out, and you can block all those spinning attacks. There's an attack where she goes up in the air, and like I mentioned earlier, and she kind of floats there for a second, and then she lobs something at you. It's a very powerful attack. Remember, you have to throw your axe at her so that she comes back down, because there's really nothing you can do to block that attack. You can have your shield out, but if she goes through that motion, she goes up in the air and she lobs that powerful attack, you're gonna take a lot of damage. Then there's also another one where she goes up in the air and she goes up really, really fast, Well, she goes up in the air really fast, and then she comes down and kind of tries to stomp on you. So when you see her fly up really fast, what you want to do is you want to just dodge to the side really quick, because she'll come down, and if you time it right, and if you've got the same talisman that I was using, you can take advantage of that, because you'll slow down time and you can do additional damage to her while you're slowing down time. Another one of her attacks is she'll at some point she'll start throwing things at you. She'll throw like ice shards or like these black fireball things. With those, you can kind of just dodge them because they're kind of in a sweeping motion, so you can kind of see the trajectory of them. You can kind of keep your distance because she doesn't come close to where you are, so it'll be more of a ranged attack, and you can see them coming at you, and you can kind of just dodge them, and then you can also use your shield to block some of those attacks. And then the last one that I wanted to go over was she's got this sweeping attack where she goes up in the air and she kind of glides towards you, and she'll do it at times. She'll do it 3 times like in a row, so you can kind of dodge those. As she's sweeping towards you, you can dodge it at the last second, and then she'll go back up in the air and she'll she'll do another glide towards you, and you can keep dodging those. And normally she'll do that 3 times in a row, so you'll have to kind of dodge that same attack 3 times. But again, if you do it correctly, you can take advantage of your talisman and you can slow down time, and then you can do damage to her, as you'll see in the final fight that I had with her, where I take advantage of all the times that I was able to slow down time because I timed my dodges perfectly. So with that, I hope this video was useful. I hope that these tips help you defeat the Valkyrie Queen. If you've got any tips for me, feel free to leave them down in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.